Are you someone who values doing everything on your own? Do you avoid asking for help because you believe it makes you appear weak and inexperienced? Our guest will teach you how to ask for help and end your lonership journey, because saying I got this, that doesn't serve you or your business. Stay tuned for the Startup Life Live show. Let's glow. Hello and welcome everyone to the Startup Life Live show. I'm your host, Ande Lyons, 4 times founder and startup champion to founders around the world. And after raising 4 businesses of my own, I now share founders' startup stories to help newly minted business owners find the solutions and inspiration they need to succeed. Thank you, founders, for carving time out to tune in and up your founder game while cheering on a fellow founder. You never know, could be an aha moment, a new resource, or another tool you could be using to help your business while you're listening to another founder's startup stories. If you're joining us live today, please say hello in the comment threads. We want to wave and blow kisses to you live. And if you're joining us via replay, put in a hashtag replay into the comment threads, and I promise I'll come by and do a virtual mwah as well for you. If you like the founder stories and gems you're hearing today, please share with your community or on your feed. Just grab the link, put the share button, whatever it takes. So good, because it helps us reach more founders and help minimize the heartache and maximize the joy they're having on their journey. And if you resonate with the show's mission of amplifying diverse voices while serving first-time founders around the world, please consider supporting the Startup Life Live show and its host with your sponsorship. You can hop on my website and get all the details there. And you know how much I love it when you hit that like button. It's calling sharing your love like on the video wherever you're watching, because we're live right now on LinkedIn, Facebook, YouTube. There's got to be a jingle for this, right? YouTube, Twitter, Twitch. I mean, come on. It just feels like we're everywhere, and it's so exciting. And of course, if you're tuning in on YouTube and you have not already subscribed, heartfelt thanks for your subscribe love and for clicking that little bell icon. All right, so enough about this. I am so excited to introduce you to our phenomenal and extraordinary guest today, the one and only Elayne Fluker. And let me just grab a little image I put up here so that while I'm reading all about her, you can gander yourself about all the goodies that she has to offer. Elayne is a seasoned entrepreneur. She is the newly published author of Get Over, I Got It, where she encourages unapologetically ambitious women to learn how to embrace support, not only for their success, but also for their peace of mind. And as a speaker at organizations such as LinkedIn, the United Nations, the Women's Presidents Organization, NYU, Columbia, Spelman College, and Howard University, Elayne gives women a roadmap for making empowered asks and living a fulfilled life. Elayne is also host of the Support is Sexy podcast, where she has interviewed more than 500 diverse women entrepreneurs around the world. And like that's not enough, she is the founder of SiS.Academy, an online learning platform educating and empowering Black women entrepreneurs. Oh my gosh, I am so ready to get all the details from this phenomenal woman. Are you too? Let's go. Let's bring her into the room. Hey, welcome to the show, Elayne Fluker.
Hi, yay. Thank you. I'm so happy to be here with you. So exciting. We've been planning this, seems like for a long time, but it just has been, the anticipation is crazy.
Well, first off, we just all have to say congratulations, Elayne, on launching your book, Get Over, I Got It.
Thank you so much. Oh, what a journey that was. Thank you.
Oh my gosh, I was watching you as it all unfolded. How does it feel to be a newly minted and published author?
You know, I don't know. I still can't believe it, but I know what I've taken a lot of joy in is finishing. You know, as startup founders and people who create things as entrepreneurs, we're always looking for this and that. And there are things that either you don't finish or you have to change, or just all these. Just knowing that I set out to do this thing, especially writing a book was something or being a writer and writing a book was something I've always dreamt about doing. I did it.
Oh, you fulfilled a dream.
I fulfilled a dream. So anything else beyond this is just bonus.
I love that. And can we say hi to the woman who told me all about you? Melissa.
Yes. Hello, Melissa. We love Melissa.
Oh,
Such a good. She supported me for years. Thank you,
oh my
Melissa.
gosh, Melissa. Now let's just all talk about Melissa for a second, everybody. This is a woman who is a mom of two amazing kids. She has her law degree. She's practicing law. And oh, by the way, she launched a phenomenal clothing brand called Pirouette NYC. Seriously, she's amazing. I love her to pieces, and she lives right around the corner. And Melissa, I can't wait to get together with you soon because we're all vaccinated.
I know.
So
Exactly. The whole
exciting.
vaccinated club is a new thing.
And,
Melissa, oh, that's awesome. I love Melissa.
hey, Robin, good to
Hi,
see
Robin.
you. And, this reminds me right now, I'm just going to throw this up to everybody. Hang in there, Robin, for a second. Please, you know how we operate here on the Startup Life Live show. Amplify your brand. Put in your website, the URL, the one-liner, so we know what it does. And Elayne and I will be like, you go. Awesome.
That's right. I got to get some clappers. I'll do this one.
So be sure to do that. Whether even if you're, an author, whatever you're doing, share that. Okay. So back to you, Robin. Thanks so much for tuning in and sharing your delicious. Hey, Christine, good to have you here. Oh, loved our conversation yesterday. Thank you, Melissa. That's awesome. And yes, we love you right back. Can't wait to see you both in Pirouette. Yes, we want to be in those rockin' outfits, those incredible dresses that you have. All right. So back to you, Elayne, because before you became this phenomenal author and before you became a podcast host, you were an entrepreneur. But as I ask all my entrepreneurs, what's the matter with you starting a business? Go play in traffic. It's easier. What, compelled you to come in and say, okay, here I am rocking the world. And folks, Elayne is brilliant at media and digital media. And so there she was getting paid on salary. What compelled you to launch your first business and become an entrepreneur in 2012 when you launched Chick Rebellion Media?
Yes.
I got it out.
Got it out. So even, I think one of the words that you use is so important, Andy, the feeling compelled to launch a business, right? So actually, before I launched that business you just mentioned, Chic Rebellion, I started a company in 2000. I believe it was around 2006 or so. I was still working in media at that time. I was managing editor at, first I was at Essence Magazine, and then I moved to managing editor at Vibe Magazine. And during that time, so just to show you all, I'm old school here. So this is before we were all doing everything on email. We were doing some email at this time. This was before social media was as huge as it is now. It was actually before a lot of these companies started. This was during the time I was in the entertainment space and in publishing. When people were looking for celebrities, were looking for an assistant, you would call people that you knew. You wouldn't put it out on Indeed, or we didn't have social media, so that wasn't a thing. You would contact someone like, hey, so-and-so celebrity is looking for an assistant. Do you know anybody? Hey, such and such is looking for this. Do you know anybody? So I decided, because I would get a lot of those calls, to set up an agency, because of course there's a problem. I'm an entrepreneur. I got to solve it, right? So actually I wasn't an entrepreneur then, but I was. I didn't know, but I was. So I started this agency called Elite PA, and we worked with celebrities in New York and California at the time. Most of them were in LA. It just sort of happened once I told people, hey, what do you think about this idea? Ava DuVernay, who's a longtime friend of mine, who's a huge director now, she was a friend back then. And I said, what do you think about this? And I asked a couple of other people. They were like, yeah, that's a good idea. You should do it. And it worked. I will tell you, and I say this all the time, this is the business that I wish I kept going and that I eventually sold, or I don't know, whatever could have happened with it. But I didn't know any of those things at that time. What I did when I started my new position as a managing editor at Vibe Magazine, it was two magazines, actually. It was a huge position. So I decided to close down the agency and focus on the job at the time. So eventually, to answer your question, when I got to the point in 2012 at launching my business, Chic Rebellion, I was still working. And then 2014, I decided, this keeps calling me and calling me. I just got to take the leap and give it a try. And that's how we got here. The two of us, two crazy entrepreneur ladies. But it just kept calling me all throughout my career.
And what I tell people, Elayne, is that every business I had came to me like a stray cat at the door, yowling until I let it in. I was like, oh, hell no, I'm not doing that.
Right.
Okay, here we go. So it's great to hear this wonderful story. And, you had 2020 hindsight when you got to the second business that you launched, and you could have that moment of regrets. But, look, where were your role models then? You'd seen a bunch of dot-coms go out of business and a lot of failure. And, the economy wasn't that strong. 2006 was our last win moment, and then things started crashing. I think you did the right thing, keeping the salary, learning more, upping your game and your credibility, so that when you could, when you were ready to go out on your own and put out your shingle in 2014, you were ready to glow.
And thank you. You made me feel better about that. It's the one business, regret isn't the word, but if I knew better, but I just honestly had no idea. It wouldn't have even occurred to me at that time. And actually, to be honest, if someone had told me, you could sell that, I probably have been like, no, that's not for me, because entrepreneurship, the information wasn't as prevalent as it is now.
Well, and also you hadn't reached a critical mass point where you were like, enough. I have to do this.
Right.
And so you were still ambivalent. But I know the wishful thinking. So then you really started to see something, obviously, in patterns, in the fact that you, again, became compelled to launch your podcast, Support is Sexy. So what life experience happened where you saw women too focused on what I like to call the lonership versus teamship, and yourself included, and where women were saying way too often, I got this versus I got you.
Right.
Talk to me a little bit about what compelled you to launch the podcast and this message that started to become clearer and clearer to you.
Yes, the phrase support is sexy is something that I started saying after I attended this workshop in New York called Momentum. They also have it in LA and I believe in DC as well. And it's sort of a personal development workshop you attend over a certain period of time. The first part of it is a weekend long. The next part is a little longer. And the leadership portion of it is a whole summer, most of the summer, 3 months, I think 90 days. So when I attended this workshop, one of the things that became evident to me that I didn't even realize was my adverse reaction to accepting support and thinking this said something negative about me, or it meant that I was weak or incompetent, or all these other false narratives I applied to this idea of support. So after that process, and usually after, I don't want to project this on you all, but usually after events and different things, you're all excited, like, yeah, after the conference, yeah, I'm going to go get it. Then a week later, you're back to your raggedy ways and doing whatever you used to do before. I wanted to stick with this because it was really powerful for me. And I had seen it in action in other people and in myself during this time. So I started saying, support is sexy, support is sexy, support is sexy. And I would see other women, especially women entrepreneurs who were a lot of us trying to figure things out on our own, would light up like, oh, or even moms like, oh yeah, I like that. That's cute. I'm going to start saying that. So it started as a saying first. And then of course, you go look at social media, like, let me see if this is available, put it on social media. So I had no idea it was going to be, I wasn't even thinking about a podcast at the time. And then actually in 2016, I started listening to podcasts. I was asking a friend of mine what shows he listened to. He mentioned Entrepreneurs on Fire and Smart Passive Income. So those were the two I started with. And then, you start listening to different ones. Guests are on there and you go. For me, though, one of the things that I felt was missing, I mean, even though both had great guests and all diversity and diverse guests, I should say, I wanted to hear the stories of women entrepreneurs, especially because I was full-time one at that time. The stories that weren't, I launched a business on Saturday and on Sunday it made $1 million. I was like, who are these women? Like, who are they? That's not me and my entrepreneur friends. We're like, girl, I got to go back and get a job. Like, this is craziness, right? So I was like, I want to hear those stories. And I knew a lot of women who were entrepreneurs, and those weren't the conversations we were having. I'm not saying that doesn't exist, but I just really wanted the full story. Yeah, and that's absolutely what led me to start my own podcast featuring, I just focused on women. I was doing it 5 days a week, as we talked about.
All right. Can we just
because of course I was channeling Oprah, even though I didn't have Oprah's team. Oprah had like 400 people in her studio and it was just
had to show up, read the notes while she was having her hair and makeup done, outfit chosen, and then she showed up, and if she flopped, pause. Okay, come back.
You mean she didn't edit everything and do all of that herself? She didn't book all the guests and all of that? Oh, I needed you to tell me that back in 2016. But it just changed everything. Just doing a show like this, and now I have, Doing that podcast was a game changer for me as an entrepreneur because I've learned so much having interviewed so many women. And then, as you mentioned, patterns, I started to see, because my whole thing is about support and asking, of course, about their business, but also the role support played in their success. And I started to see so many of us had to get over what I call I got it syndrome. So it's when someone offers you support, it's like, I got it. I got it. It's okay. I got it. No, I got it.
Well, we end up with these mythologies about ourselves or how we're
right.
supposed to be or what success looks like. And of course, we're going to talk about the strong woman syndrome. You know, Elayne, I went to an all women's MBA program, and the founders were so into the fact that women were independent performers and they were committed to breaking us of that habit. What they did is they put us into groups of 6 study groups, and they gave us too much homework for one person to do.
Ooh, I
So
like that.
you had to rely on other people. Now, you know, if you're out there and you want it, and this is what I know to be true about women, at least back when I went to school and over the last, 10 or so years, is that women tend to look at who's doing it the best and say, I have to do better. And let me tell you, the reality is men look at the situation, go, who's doing it the worst? Okay, I got to do better than them. That is a fact. So you can see how we can set ourselves up right away as individual performers, and we're going to get screwed, especially if we're looking at who's doing it the best, especially on social media with us right here. But so what we learned in school was that we had to rely on however that person got it done. They got it done, we handed it in. And we had to work as a team, and we had to let go of that need to be an individual performer. So support is very sexy.
Thank you so much for sharing that. That's amazing. And I love that even in an educational setting, it was recognized that women are usually what is it called? Independent performers. So thinking we have to do it on our own.
Exactly.
Oh, okay. See, so this book, it's more than a theory. That's what I always tell people. I'm like, I'm telling you, it's real. This is a real thing.
Well, if we think about how long have women's sports been around? Girls soccer, what, 20, maybe 30 years, girls basketball, so girls volleyball, lacrosse, hockey now. We haven't learned that take, your name off and just put it, you're number two, get over here. 24, right. You missed that ball, all of these things. And so what you're talking about is so important, because what you mentioned in your book is what you were seeing is that women who were doing too much had a lot of things going on. So they really perhaps loved having all those plates spinning in the air, but were they good at it? Was it good for their health? Talk a little bit about what you first saw as the downside of women who were not getting support, who were not finding the people, because again, we look at our male counterparts who founded the art of business. Let's just put it out there. They had someone at home taking care of the kids or making sure all these things were taken care of. And as Gloria Steinem always said, as soon as the dad is equally responsible for getting kids to the soccer game, I don't know, but I throw that out as a sidebar. Talk about that, Elayne, about how women were starting to get sick and too stressed out and burning out.
Yes, that's exactly right. So that's one of the things that I say. This book is not only about getting support to get ahead, but it's also about getting support to get well. So you look at the rise with women of having cardiovascular disease or other stress-induced symptoms or stress-induced sicknesses, if you will, anxiety, depression. One of the rates, or one of the things that I noticed, I want to make sure I get the numbers right here, when I was doing research for the book, is that since 1999, suicide rates for women ages 45 to 64 rose 63%. And that was the age group with the second largest increase in suicides, women 45 to 64. The largest increase was girls ages 10 to 14. And this is according to the CDC. So there are a lot of reasons that people, try to commit suicide. I know, having personally been through that as a teenager, but when I read that women between 45 and 64, you think that age where you have it together, right? You think you got it, you're hitting your stride probably in your career. And just to know that it rose by 63% in the past 20 years, this is a problem. There's some need for support there, whether we think we can't reach out for it, whether we don't know how. So these are all the things that I wanted to to make sure to address in my podcast, just in all the work that I do. And just the book is just the most recent. So, that's just one of those realistic things, right? To check
Oh
in.
my
And this
gosh,
is
take that in,
why it's
everybody.
urgent.
And the number one killer of women, heart disease.
Heart disease. Yep.
We have got to pull it together. So let's just say a quick hello. LinkedIn user, I'm not sure who you are, but thank you. Hashtag Women Empowering Women. Great topic here. So grateful you're tuning in. And Jennifer, yay. We're going to cheer you on. Jennifer C. Foxworthy, everybody.
Hey,
Okay. And thank you. You came to via Moss. Woohoo. So happy for your business. And women's rights was a mistake. Oh, great. We got to get are addicted to birth control.
Was this patriarchy build the West?
Oh boy, we don't want this person around here, do we?
I'm not sure, but I will say something. I will respond to that if you want me to.
Thank you very much. Go right in there, and I'll just try to keep my mouth shut.
I know, I'll take it for you. I'm going to save you from the wrath of Ande right now. No, but one of the things you think about talking about the patriarchy, since you want to go there, when we think, and I love what you said about what you learned in school. There are reasons, I believe, that women believe that we have to do things on our own. So one of them being that men still make more than women in the United States just because they're men. Same education. Now you can look this up everywhere. These aren't my own numbers. I don't make them up. I just do the research and report to you. Okay. So whoever wrote that about the patriarchy, white men, for example, for every $1, all women make 82 cents. Asian women make 87 cents. White women make 79 cents. Black women make 63 cents to the dollar. Native women make 60 cents. Latina women make 55 cents. There's no note here about why. The only reason is gender. So, of course, if I'm in a work environment and me and Tom are going up for the same position, I'm probably going to think twice. And whether this is true or true or believed or imagined, I should say, I'm going to think twice about getting support, right? About asking someone to support me, because there might be this in the back of my mind, like, well, if I ask for support, they're going to think that I'm not capable, whereas Tom might be free he might not even be thinking about it. That's the thing. So we're not saying anything negative about men, right? It just doesn't even occur to them, right? Like you said, they're just like, who's doing it the worst? If I do it, if I got 10%, whereas women were like, I have to have 110% to even be considered for this.
That's right.
So this is not female hysteria here, right? I want to say there's reasons that we might feel this way or think this way.
And women, we have to remember, we haven't been at this for centuries. Okay.
Right.
We just like a little over 100 years ago, we were able to own our assets. Hello. Right. And vote. Hello. And that's white women. All right. Mm-hmm. So forget if you're Black or Latina or any other color that's out there. We're just shortly, women's agenda for centuries, millennium was to make sure they were provided for and their children were provided for. So they would be looking at the manscape around them and making decisions based on that. So we're very new at this game. And of course we're stumbling. And yes, birth control and hair color gave us a whole new level of freedom.
That's right. We love a good color.
Well, but think about how many women were going gray at a normal age, right? Mm-hmm. Where men go gray, but then all of a sudden they're looked at as a grandmother.
They're
and
distinguished.
Not
right. And men distinguished. Exactly.
Exactly. So yes, we got a lot of freedom from birth control. So I'll thank that person about women's rights who came in and that really helped, but still we're just learning. So we have to, as sisters, really cut ourselves some slack, be there to support each other, and understand that we have been competing with each other for thousands of years. And we're still just getting used to this collaboration, and we're still just getting used to business. So Elayne, there's so many great parts in your book, and I'm just going to bring this right up right now because I've got to remind everybody, you please go get this book and then give this book. I bought one for me and I bought one for Christine, a pal of mine on Facebook who lives in LA. And I have to tell you, you will learn so much, especially from the stories. But let's talk a little bit about the syndrome. And, we just went through some of the physical and the emotional tolls that we've seen from women trying to do it all on themselves. And let's face it, advertising in Hollywood have not helped. So I want you to talk a little bit about, especially today, because a lot of people position and package themselves beautifully online, and they look like they're doing everything. And we have to understand that success, right, Elayne, is up to you. So talk about this, because this is a beautiful part in your book about what does having it all look like for you, viewers and listeners, versus who you're seeing and who you think success is going to look like.
That's right. And I'm glad you mentioned social media because it's so prevalent today. And I just remind people sometimes a pretty picture is just a pretty picture, right? It doesn't say anything about you or your success. And it might not even necessarily say something about that person that you're admiring and their success. Let's just say it's a pretty picture and leave it at that. We can apply all of these meanings to it based on our own experiences of, oh, this person is doing better than me. This person has more support than I do, or all these other things that we might apply to this image that might be true, but then it might not. But again, if you just take a step back from it and just say, what matters to me? How do I define what having it all means to me? Do I even want to do something like what that person is doing in that picture? Or is this just the the jealousies coming up inside of me? So remaining focused on what really matters to you. And I think, not even just social media, but we just get all this messaging, whether growing up from family, from friends, or for me, for example, when I was working in publishing, I will tell you, leaving my job, I won't say it was difficult, but it was interesting for me because I did not hate it. A lot of times it's easy to leave, whether a relationship, a job, or anything like that, if you feel like, oh, I don't love it here, it's toxic, or whatever other reasons you can give for leaving. I just felt, as we talked about earlier, compelled to give entrepreneurship a full try. That was my thing. I can always go back to work, but I really want to give this a full try. There were plenty of people in my circle and people who love me who were thinking, are you sure? Why do you? Or who were saying, not even thinking, saying, are you sure? Are you? But then the shoulds, that's the thing. We get caught up in the should. I should be doing this. I should stay. I should be happy. I'm successful. I should be happy doing this. But are you happy? Never mind the should. I say we end up shoulding all over ourselves, right?
That's right.
I should. So that's the thing that I think is important, defining what does your all mean to you.
And boy, this takes some inner work, and try not to do it alone, folks. Okay, get someone to help you probe and get those questions. And speaking of probing questions and conversations, it's the marvelous Mia Voss. She is the host. Elayne, you will love her podcast. She is the host of Shit We Don't Talk About. And I'm telling you, right?
I like it already.
Yeah, it's phenomenal. She's a brand ambassador. She wears many tiaras, but that podcast, Mia goes there and she does it beautifully. And so
I can't wait to check it out.
Thank you for tuning in, Mia. And my anonymous LinkedIn user. Yes, you are not what is on social media. So Elayne, I'd like to use this example. Yoga, right, everybody? And some people can get into some of these positions and you're like, what? My body can't go there, right? When you're thinking about seeing what someone's doing, raising a beautiful family, in a relationship with a partner, managing a home, and they've got a bajillion-dollar business that they're going to take public, right? Now, that person may just have been born with that ability, okay, to just jam, like they are not going to be happy unless it's all jamming like that for them. But that doesn't mean you have to be. And so just think about what yoga positions you can get into versus the one who's got their, leg behind their head coming around.
Right. That's a good way of looking at it. Exactly.
And I love what Gary Vee has been saying lately. I'd rather be happy in my Toyota than crying in the Ferrari, right?
That's right.
And you did that wonderful self-actualization program. So there were plenty of people in there that were, quote, successful people in their lives and their career and miserable. So,
that's right.
That's not what it's about. But one of the things that women, and I know men, of course, have a hard time asking for directions, but they have no problem delegating. Who can do this, right? How do you help women? Because you talk about this in your book. It's phenomenal about how women can ask for help and what limiting beliefs are keeping women from seeking support. So you call it, retiring the cape. I mean, we all want to be Wonder Woman, but we got to be Wonder Woman right in our lives. Talk a little bit about that. And also your other topic, which is the strong one. Ooh, yes, so many good things. I can't get enough.
And the person who needs the most support from us is usually the strong one, even though she may never ask for it. So always keep that in mind. There was a meme going around maybe a year or so ago that would say, check on your strong friend. And I reposted it and said, check on your strong friend. And if you are that strong friend, remember that you need support, because again, we're always giving, most of us, and don't realize, I need some support for myself as well. You're giving until your cup is empty and never replenishing. But I will share a way that's an easy way, I think, for you to remember to ask for support. And it's the word HELP. It's an acronym, HELP. And the H is having it all doesn't mean doing it all alone. So as we just mentioned, this idea of your all, what is your all for you? And then how do you get support for that? So anytime you have that reaction of, oh no, I don't want to ask for help, remember, wait a minute, me having my all, whatever kind of experiences, work, life, play, relationship that I want to create, I don't have to do it alone. What's a way that I can get support for this? And the E is about asking empowering questions. So the questions aren't, why am I such a jerk? Why haven't I figured this out already? Why am I not on the beach in Cabo? Why am I not? All these questions that are not, they're questions for sure, but they're not empowering questions. How can you ask empowering questions such as, again, how can I get support for this? How can I become a speaker in corporate companies or corporations, and on stages around the world? How can I do this? How can I, and just be open. And then the L is live that question. So this is something I actually learned from a woman named Patricia Moreno, who I interviewed on episode 26 of the Support is Sexy podcast. I have no favorites. Want to make sure I say that. No favorites. But this idea of living the question really resonated with me, because as startup founders, as women, as moms, as all of these things, we are supposed to know all the answers, right? So when someone tells you to get comfortable living the question and not trying to answer that question, it can be difficult. But that's what I want you to do for the L. You're going to ask empowering questions and then live that question and let go of the how. So sometimes I know I've done this and I still have to stop myself. I have a plan or an intention of what I want to accomplish, and then I'm going to say how it's going to work out for me or how I'm going to realize this dream. Now, I'm not saying don't have a plan, but you never know. You got to make some space for some serendipity, for the right introduction, for the right opportunity, for all of these other things that might come in that you might miss if you're saying, no, the only way I'm going to get there is this way. So live the question and let go of the how. It's funny, I will share with you all just the other day, yesterday, actually, last night, I wrote in my book, my journal, what are the questions that I'm living right now? And I just wrote those questions out. No answers, which was so hard because some of them I had some ideas and I just said, no. I'm just living these questions right now. It was everything from personal to things on my business to promotion for the book. Just what are you living right now? And then the P is believe in the possibilities. So you can't do all of these things and then not believe that it can happen, right? So you got to believe in the possibilities. So that's just an easy way, that help framework, if you will, to remember how to ask for support. Yay.
I love it all. This is where the magic can happen. I was watching the Billboard Awards, right? And who's the guy? Machine Gun Mike guy, whoever.
Machine Gun Kelly.
Yeah. He was like, oh my gosh. He had the best quote. And he said to folks, look, don't put a time on your journey. It's taken me 15 years for me to be on a stage right here getting this award. What if I had said, 12 is all I can do? I should be putting at 12, right? And he said, this is where the magic happens, is when you live with that question. That's when, what? And, you have your dream. You've let the universe know that the dream is important. Anyway, I just was like,
that's great. I got to look that up. I have to look up his speech. I love that. Right? That's another thing too. Like we said about social media, you never know what kind of work that person has put in, what the journey is like. We don't know. It's just a moment.
Right. Just because he's with one of the most gorgeous women in the world doesn't mean it has to be for him or for her. Right.
Right. Exactly.
We just think that's great. Hey, thank you, Mia. I love shouting you out, Goddess Mia. You're amazing. And yes, Elayne, I know you two will have a great conversation. And my favorite LinkedIn user today, the anonymous one. I love it, especially Ellen P. Just got the book.
Oh, thank you so much. Yay!
Oh, you've got to put your name in. I'm so sorry. Yay! Sometimes LinkedIn does that. LinkedIn will do that. It won't let me know the name. That's a StreamYard thing. But thank you. You will love, love, love it. And it's one of those books that you can just go like this and then open it up and go, oh, That's what I needed to hear today. Yes.
Oh, thank you. That's
But
awesome.
you were talking about the strong women syndrome, and come on, everybody. I mean, in my family of origin, I was the solutionist, right? Well, ask Andy how it's done. So I was constantly having to show up and solve everybody's problems. It comes easy to me. That doesn't mean anybody's going to take my advice, but send her out, let her handle it. People like that. You hear the phrase all the time: ask a busy woman to volunteer and you'll get it done. I don't know. I don't know how I feel about that. How do you feel about that, Elayne?
I hadn't heard that before. It's probably true, but as the busy woman, you have to be able to set healthy boundaries. So it can be as simple as saying a no, which a lot of us are uncomfortable with, just saying no. But how about at least saying, well, I can't do that, but here's what I can do. Even that's a way of creating a healthy boundary for yourself. So if someone asks you to organize whatever the event is, well, I can't do that. But if you have a committee and I can just get on a call once a week till the program is, that might even be too much for you, but just something that scales it down for you so that it's not overwhelming, or not even overwhelming. It might be something you could do easily, but you got to create some space for yourself and just get in the habit. That's the thing that the book is about, really getting into the practice, if you will, and then it becoming a habit of creating healthy boundaries for yourself. It'll open you up to so many other possibilities if you do that. Otherwise, your time is just so full. When are some of these other things going to come in?
That's right. And it is called the art of possibility too. It's a practice. It's how can that possibility happen? Because it's never a guarantee. I just love this advice, something fierce. And we got to cheer on Robin Arnold. She just got the book too.
Yay! Oh, thank you. Yay.
Bravo,
awesome.
Bravo. Yeah. And Mia, yes, it is a complete sentence. No.
It is. No.
There we go. And women, it is hard to say no. We've been trained to just be the yesers and show up. And especially, you moms, when you get pulled in, oh, can you help produce the play this year? What? Or can you help over here? Can you help over there? And then you've got the moms who are really good at momming. And so they're, showing up with everything, and it's all, no. And I was fortunate. Our oldest, the teacher always thought that I was helping him with his homework because he was an artist and he could create these incredible designs. And I'm like, look, I can't even draw with a ruler a straight line. Right. No, it's not me.
One of the things that one of the women featured in the book said that I thought that I quickly adopted, I interviewed her later, I had a conversation with her later, and she said she started telling people when she got pushed back to her no, as you said, it's a full sentence, but she started saying, I want to be able to give you the best of me. And if I say yes to this, you won't get the best of me. And I
Beautiful.
was like, okay, yeah. It's just sort of like, I want to show up happy and joyful or whatever you need. And if I say yes to this because of, my schedule, whatever the reason, you don't have to explain that, but just letting the person know, look, I want to show up at my best. And if I agree to this, I just won't. And I want you to get the best of me.
And I know White Lion feels like a much easier way to just make them happy and get them off your plate, but it's very honoring when you go and you practice this, saying no, right, Elayne?
Mm-hmm. And then you'll feel guilty about the white lie, right? It's just like, oh, I just told them that I couldn't do it because I have to do something else Yeah, exactly. We've all done it, but this is a better practice. And then at that point, if the person just doesn't understand, then that's on them. You might need to restructure that relationship overall.
That's right. And, and people will glop onto you because you just happen to be talented at doing a lot of things. But also, I just keep wanting to come back to this. How do we stop the comparing, which just leads to despairing everybody? And especially when you're asking for help, how can women, what is, we've got the HELP acronym, which is wonderful. But what are some ways that we can stop feeling like, no, I've got this. I've got caught up in this web of delivering and I'm losing it here. I mean, you had some great stories in the book. Can you share just a couple examples so women don't feel like they're completely losing their Wonder Woman, but Wonder Woman is just getting up, people into her sphere and getting them to help?
One of the things I thought was very helpful from the book is a conversation I had with Dr. Zoe Shaw. And she actually has a podcast called Redefining Your Superwoman. And her chapter is called Retire Your Cape. I believe it's chapter 4. Don't quote me on that, but Retire Your Cape. And she talks about the importance of us as busy women creating a list. So not just a to-do list, but a list of your priorities. So this could be everything from my kids playing soccer as a priority to me working out every morning as a priority to us having dinner together every night is a priority, whatever that is, looking at that list and then looking at what are the activities that you do each day, and do those activities align with your priorities? So if it's important to you to have a strong presence on social media, do your actions, whether you're paying someone to do it or whatever that looks like, does that match with what you say? All right, as we talked about having it all, what you say your priorities are. And Dr. Zoe said, when you start doing that comparison, that's when you start to see where the friction comes in. So just to speak to where you talked about the comparison and those kinds of things, if you're clear on your priorities, then you look at your activities and see where they might be misaligned. That'll help you figure out, you know what, this is why I might be feeling less than. This is why I might be feeling frustrated. This might be why my business isn't working. This might be why I feel like I can't get healthier. I don't have time to exercise. I'm saying I don't have time. I'm saying exercise is a priority, just as an example, and that I want to get up early to work out in the morning. But on my list of things that I'm doing, I'm not going to bed till after midnight. So those two things, right, aren't aligned. So I think just sort of doing an assessment of where you are right now, not a judgment of yourself, just an assessment of yourself, where you are right now. And again, looking at what are your priorities. If your priority isn't, traveling the world like someone you see on social media, you might have a little envy when you see them on the beach somewhere. But listen, you got your own priorities here, right? And then look at where your activities are, and then sort of cull that list, as she says, and make those things align so that you feel really excited about what you are doing and where you are focused. And your focus and things and priorities change. But as of right now, most of us have things that we want to do. Another thing that she says that I think is so important is don't try to make sweeping changes at one time. Ooh. So if you say, right, you're going to get up earlier so that you can work out, and that means everyone in your family, if you have your partner and your 4 kids, you're all going to go to bed 2 hours earlier so that you can get up and work out and go for an hour-long run. It's doing too much. As always, we're overachieving, right? Instead, why not let everybody go to bed the time they go to bed, and you get up 15 minutes earlier and do 10 crunches, right? And you might be like, oh, that's not enough, but you'll more likely stick to that, right? Then we think it's not.
I'll do that for 5 minutes. It's just incremental. And I want to encourage women too, Elayne, to invest. See, so there's this interesting scenario. And I learned this from my friends who back in the day were busy raising money for alumni associations. The men would look around and say, what? Tom wrote a $25,000 check. Well, I got to beat that. Right. And women are like, you need some cookies? It's just like the money wasn't even, and Emily's List talks about this a lot too, politically. We're learning how to invest. We're learning how to invest in our businesses, and those in the tech world are understanding, marketing is a very important investment. This is the same thing with you in your life. Look at where you're spending your money and the happiness that brings you, okay? If you can find someone to help you, partner with you, if you're so busy, even if it's preparing meals, cleaning, taking the kids out and doing fun things with them. You don't always have to be that person. Whatever that looks like, fork out the dough and do it. And, even if you've got to capitalize it in a way on a charge card, do that too, because this is a brief period of time in your life where you're going to need extra support. What are your thoughts about that, Elayne?
I love that advice. And I think don't fall victim to the idea of whatever your current circumstances are. So everyone has different means, of course, but sometimes we might think, so for example, in the book, I talk about investing in a coach, which has been something very important to me. If that's not a possibility for you at a time, don't just give up on that or just say, oh, I can't afford it. Again, we're living this question. I need to have a coach. So for me, I wanted to talk to some coaches who were from the corporate space just to hear more about how I can make my business more accessible to corporations. I happen to find 2 incredible women I've been working with for 2 months now at SCORE, which is the free opportunity for you to get mentorships from former entrepreneurs or corporate folks. So score.org is the organization, but completely free. They're donating their time. They're incredible resources. So a lot of times we stop ourselves from investing. Investing does mean money, but it could also mean time, investing your time to do the research to find the resource that you need. And a lot of that is out there now, especially with online, watching videos, and there's just tons of information. It's just investing the time. So I definitely believe exactly what you said, and figure out a creative way to get the support you need.
Because you need the support. We're going to talk about that in just a second. Hey, prepare for VC. Thank you for tuning in. And thank you also for amplifying the show in your one roundtable. Really, really appreciate you. They're a local group of phenomenal humans who are entrenched in the Boston startup community and add so much value wherever they glow. I know when you were listening, ouch, sounds like I need to work on that list, says the LinkedIn user. And hello, mannish, aspiring life from India. Nice of you to tune in to this great conversation, because this is not just women, although women tend to want to do it all. But, men have to get support in their lives in unique ways as well. So one of the things that what I would like to have you talk about is, this show, of course, is for first-time founders, folks who are thinking about becoming a founder, those who are, entrenched in maybe their first or second business. How can founders incorporate a supportive culture in their startups? Many founders are all about the unicorn mindset, sleeping, eating, breathing startup life. That just is never going to work, folks. Don't do it. But it's a nice meme and a nice mythology out there. How can founders be good role models, right, for their team as well as for themselves, for their family, by asking for support?
One of the women I talked to in the book is Carrie Kirpin, and she's the founder of Likeable Media. And the name is just perfect, right? Likeable Media started before a lot of the social media companies even started, or in the early days of them. And one of the things I love that Carrie talks about is the importance of being a happy CEO. So for her, as CEO of the company and as a wife and as a mom, it's important for her to feel happy and fulfilled, whatever that looks like for her, whether that's exercise, healthy eating, making sure she has time off, and those kind of things that really matter to her, as we talked about what matters. And then she communicates that, or that is lived out, if you will, within the company. So making sure that employees have a certain amount of time off. And even one thing she mentioned was, at first they gave employees unlimited time off, but then people felt so guilty for taking it. They felt like they were taking advantage. So they had to change that. So it's like you have a limit, or minimum, I should say, amount of time off. But that's a way of making sure that you instill a culture of support. And that's someone supporting themselves, where you're going to take this time off, or creating a culture of support where it's about having fun one day. So she mentioned, they can't have puppy Fridays every Friday, but they might be able to have it once a quarter, or everybody bring their pet in and we all take a family photo. And so just finding ways to create opportunities for not only support, but connection, especially now. I think it's even more important because most of us aren't back in the office or fully back in the offices, but there's still so many great ways virtually that we can make sure that we're connecting and you create this culture of connection. But I think to really get to your question, it's important for you as a CEO, as a founder, what really matters to you, not just from the business goals and perspective, but from a lifestyle perspective. And how are you going to be happy? Because the business will be influenced by you, especially if you're a solo founder. But even if you're a partner, it's going to be, in those early days for sure, influenced by you and the culture that you create. And I will say too, if you are already into your business and you're thinking, wow, our culture is work, 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 go, 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 don't sleep, you can decide to make a change. And you could do the same list that we talked about with Dr. Zoe, of creating what are your list of your priorities as a founder? What's important to you for a business? How do you want your employees to feel about your business? That's part of the culture as well, right? What do you want them to say about your company when you're not there? And then look at, well, what are the activities? Is it aligned with what you say is important for your company? Are you telling people that they can't take off until, a year from now after you launch? Well, that might not be a culture of, healthy work-life balance, just as an example. So, yes.
It's so true. I have so many thoughts around that. I think one of the gifts, the silver linings from the pandemic, is that companies realized that the productivity went up when they were working from home. And you women know that you could get done in 5 hours what you're required to be there from 9 to 5 in.
That's right.
You get that done in 5 hours and boom, move on to something else. So, but also when we had Beth Sanders from Life Bio on the show, she talked about how hard it was, but she had to implement taking the weekend off. She would leave at the end of the day, Friday, and that was it. She stopped until Monday morning. And with social media, everybody, and emails coming in Saturdays and Sundays, that's so hard to do. Any thoughts around advice on setting that up?
I love that because even Shonda Rhimes, I didn't interview Shonda Rhimes for the book, but just so I know that this is something that she said, the producer of Scandal, Grey's Anatomy, all these incredible shows. So obviously, if it's not obvious, she's a busy woman.
Bridgerton.
But she put Bridgerton. I can't wait for it to come back. Oh my gosh. I love it. I love that show. Bridgerton. I was just reading about Bridgerton yesterday because the Duke isn't coming back. And anyway, we could talk about that for a whole other. I'm so excited about that. So she's busy, right? She's busy being a successful mega producer. We love all her things. She has a rule for herself and her company. No emails. I believe it's after 7 p.m.
Beautiful.
She's home with her kids or she's doing whatever she's doing. She wants you to also be doing. So that's the thing. It's a rule for yourself and you can create that as a rule within your organization. That is a healthy boundary, right? As we talked about. So being the example as the CEO and leader, and it sounds like a simple thing, but that could change so much stress and anxiety for people who feel like, I got to check my email just to make sure something didn't come in or whatever that is. The boss is off right now and she doesn't want me to check email after this time. So
and a couple more things I want to remind people with Ruben Harris. I felt like he was looking at me when I was taking this Founder Gym course. He said, and you solopreneurs need a team. I was like, oh my God, I need a team. I hadn't been a solopreneur before, so I didn't know I'm supposed to be doing all of this myself, right? Especially with posting on the platforms. That's why we have Agora Pulse and Hootsuite. You can schedule those babies out, okay? You don't have to be there. But also as a founder of a .com, Elayne, when that culture was set up, it was the guy sleeping on the couch doing it 24/7. And I've told this story before, but when I was interviewed for Wired magazine, I said, hello, this is unsustainable. I have a 4 and a 2-year-old at home. This can't be happening, not just for me, but other women who would like to be successful in this .com world. It was, that was a very tough culture. And we're seeing it again happen with this whole new flurry of entrepreneurship. And Elayne's book, everybody, I'm going to put it back up again. I haven't put up there enough, darn it all. Having it all doesn't mean doing it all alone. It's time to stop playing Superwoman and get some support. Please buy this book. Do yourself a favor. You can squeeze it in. You can get, do you have it? Is it audio yet?
Audible. Yes. You can get it on Audible. Yes. And I'm reading it so you can hear me on Audible.
I love that. Something fierce.
And of course on Audible, you get in the audiobook, rather, you get so many asides and just personal stories or things that I share that aren't in the book. So
see, you did a Gary V. I love that.
That's right.
Yes, I love that. He does that at his books too. And it's just wonderful. So it's even an even better investment, but you're going to be folding laundry. You're going to be going around picking up the kids or whatever it is you're doing. And, Audible is one of my favorite ways to listen to a book. But, these challenges that we have to ask for support. So I want all of you to just think about this in your life. How can you support yourself? But more important, how can you support others? Let's talk a little bit about that, Elayne, because you talk about that as well in your book. It's not just, I got it. It's like, I got you. How can women be more supportive of each other?
Yeah, I think being able to be open to, again, just like we talked about the possibilities of support for yourself, the possibilities for you to show up for other women in an authentic way, in a way that doesn't feel stressful. I will say one of the things that I love about the community of women that I've been I will say intentionally building, but just attracting. And I think it's because I'm in this space of being open to support and being constantly open to receiving it. And that helps me have opportunities to give it. Just being in that space of openness, you will find these opportunities to help someone, whether it's in a setting like I'm talking about, a business setting, or something that's a professional environment, or it's just something simple like at the grocery store, just a simple act of kindness, if you will. So I think in the same way of getting support for yourself, how we talked about that takes practice to develop the habit. It's the same thing with connecting with other women or other people in general. I have men, women, all kinds of people, non-binary folks who support me all along the way. And I'm just so, it's a space of gratitude that I'm in and feeling blessed, but it's not something that's special to me. I just want to say, right? This isn't something that this can be a part of your life as well. And I know a lot of people right now, even though the world is quote unquote opening back up, still feel lonely or alone or like they don't have anyone. And you know what? That might be the case, that you don't have anyone around you if you're single or your parents are gone or family or whatever that is. It's even more important for you to reach out for support. And that could look like friends, family, work, or that could look like support groups. That can look like whatever you need. You don't have to share that with anybody. It's all for you. We just want to make sure you're not going through all of this alone.
That's right. And I want you, especially you solo performers, independent performers, and loners, to repeat after me and put these on stickies around your house. This mantra: it's so easy to receive.
Mm.
It's so easy to receive. Because, part of that pattern you've gotten into is to give. I'll get that for you. I'll do that for you. Let me do it. And I feel good. I made you happy. I feel good. I know I'm a people pleaser. I got to let go. Just keep saying it's so easy for me to receive, and you'll see some magic happen in your life. And yay. So Manish is going to listen to it on Audible. Hooray. And Melissa, of course you've got it on Audible. You busy mom driving your kids everywhere. Come on. That's perfect. I love that. Can we just talk a little bit before we wrap up about your phenomenal SiS.America organization? Academy.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
SiS.Academy.
Yes.
Thank you. Whoopsie.
That's okay. Someone's going to run out and buy SiS.America.
Yeah, I know. SiS.Academy. Okay,
yes.
Ande, get it together. But because I was so fascinated about this, would you share with everybody how this came to be and where it's at today?
Yes, I started having these conversations with women entrepreneurs, of course. So still piggybacking off the Support is Sexy podcast idea, but I was having video conversations and workshops, if you will, in a private mastermind group. So the Support is Sexy mastermind, a private Facebook group. We have about 400 or so women in there. And I was having these video conversations and they were so rich. And it was really, the Support is Sexy podcast. I talked to women entrepreneurs about their story or about their whole journey overall to becoming an entrepreneur. And again, how support played a role. But this was something that allowed me to focus in on this person's expertise. So we've had Ty Heath, who is the global lead of the B2B Institute at LinkedIn. She came on to talk about how to level up your LinkedIn profile. We had who else has been on there? B. Dixon, who is the founder of the Honey Pot Company that's in Target and all these other stores. I love their products. They're fantastic feminine products for women. She talked about how to get your products ready to go to the big retailers. So I have women come on who talk about their specific expertise, and it's in the format of video. So whether it's an online workshop, a conversation, or some of it's a podcast interviews, but it's me and the guest. And then I've been doing them live like this setup here so that people can also come on and ask their questions. And I decided to make SiS.Academy, so it's like Support is Sexy Academy, focus on really supporting and empowering Black women entrepreneurs, especially because right now they are the fastest growing segment of entrepreneurs in the United States, right? But still usually the least funded, least supported for all the reasons that we probably all can imagine. So I wanted to create a space where not only from a business perspective, but also from a personal development perspective. So we have a channel on the site, SiS.Academy, that's called Start From Within. And it's dealing with imposter syndrome, dealing with microaggressions, dealing with all these different issues that a lot of us come up against. Anyone can watch it, of course, but keeping in mind what the experience might be like for a Black woman in business. So that's SiS.Academy. And my vision, Ande, is to continue to grow that for it to become, the lynda.com for Black women entrepreneurs. I said it, and continue to have it grow. And I think I have almost 50 videos in there now. I just want to continue just to create this library and this space of learning.
Congratulations. I'm going to keep the link in the post, everybody, into the show notes so we can go and participate and send our wonderful Black female entrepreneurs to get the support they need, to see the representation they need, and to learn that support is sexy while they're at it. And I would love to see more. I would like to see less of someone doing like so phenomenal on their own. I'd like to see more photos. We can tag each other going, see, I'm getting help.
That's right. See? I know.
Someone helped me with this. Oh, hey, see?
That's right.
I didn't do this alone. Someone helped me. And we can start celebrating that. I think that would be wonderful. But we'll go back to where we began this conversation. And that is, you are a founder. Okay. And there are times when you will feel inadequate. And founders who are watching, especially you first-time founders, doesn't matter how many businesses you have. Okay. There's a TED Talk for that. founder, imposter, inadequacy, all of those things are real. So, Elayne, what mindset hack do you use to help yourself shift when you're sitting there going, what was I thinking? Oh my gosh, I don't know anything. Who, what, where, why?
Yes, I use some of the strategies that we talked about here, but I will tell you what's been crucial for me in continuing this journey as an entrepreneur is the support of a coach that I work with. I've worked with her, Margot, for 3 years now. Oh my goodness, was 2017, almost 4 years now. Have been, working with her and just being able to have those conversations with someone who's objective, but who still knows my triggers, my backstory, my intention, my goals, all of those things has been really helpful because she's a business coach, but she also is a woman entrepreneur or someone who owned her own company, I should say. And she sold her catering business years ago. So it's not just from the perspective of, she started a business, but she has the psychology background. She has all of these things that I really need when I'm having those moments and those conversations. And then I have the other people to support me on certain parts of my business. As I mentioned, the two ladies from SCORE who are helping me from the agency side. I just reached out to this fantastic woman, Carol Cox. I don't know if you know Carol from Speaking Your Brand. She has a fantastic company and podcast. You two would hit it off. I need to connect you. But her whole thing is Speaking Your Brand, Carol, because I want to talk to her more about creating this content from the book and really turning it into a keynote speech. And I want to talk more to corporations. So to answer your question, for me, again, it's all about getting support. It's the only way I know, because even though I have a separate office here in my space here, I got to hang my picture. It's over there, but I got to hang my picture. But I have a separate space. So that's good that I can separate work from my living space. But still, sometimes as a solopreneur, as it sounds, it can be isolating, right? And you get in your own head and you don't, even if I have a team, but the team is virtual. So we're not here, together all the time. So I have to make sure I bring resources in. And I will tell you what's important, Ande, is putting fun on your calendar. I wish I had my phone here.
Hold on. Here we go. Ditch that on a pillow. Put fun on your calendar. Thank you, Elayne Fluker.
Yes, that is so great. Stitch that on a yes. And I had to put that on my calendar on Saturday and Sunday or whatever day it is. I have it in there. Have fun. Capital letters. I had to remember, because otherwise I'm that person during the week like, oh, I'll save this work for the weekend. I'll save this for the weekend. Then I don't feel like doing it on the weekend. Then I feel guilty for not doing it on the weekend. It's just a vicious cycle. And it's like, no, it's on mine, Robin. I'm going to make sure that yes, you have to schedule fun. You have to schedule fun. So that's been important to me too.
Just like you have to schedule some of the work we get done on ourselves.
That's right. Schedule your family time. I have time on my calendar when I go visit my parents. Like it's very much intentional of when am I going to do these things.
So delicious. I saw your photos. Oh my gosh. And then let's talk just real briefly about how entrepreneurship has served you both personally and professionally, because nobody loses, folks, when they launch a business. I don't care if you're like, nope, never doing it again, going back to being an employee. That's wonderful. But you're gonna just gain so much knowledge. How has entrepreneurship served you, Elayne?
Entrepreneurship is one of the greatest lessons in personal development that I've ever experienced in life. It'll show you what you're made of and what you're not. And it's okay if you're not, right? You either learn to hire out those things where you need the support, or you learn how to level up and learn new skills. And for me, it's really been becoming a lifelong learner, which is something I guess it was a part of me, but being much more intentional. In fact, this morning I was working out with my trainer, Mark Jenkins, who's awesome. He keeps the guns going here. He and I were talking about marketing. He's moving his fitness business online, and he was telling me about a marketing course that he took, and we were talking about 20% of your audience is, really so just having those conversations with people, and it just gets me excited and lights me up, as we talked about earlier. Being able to continue learning. So it's always something new. And I try to take joy in that as opposed to have anxiety about that. Like, oh no, there's something else I don't know. It's like, oh, okay, there's something else I don't know. Let me find out how I can find out more about that. Let me live that question, right?
Right.
So that's the example. It's really opened me up. And I will say, entrepreneurship, but really having the podcast and being able to connect with women like you and Melissa and just so many others, just having the conversations and seeing how other women are launching their businesses, whether it's just them and they're creating, something on Etsy, or it's women I've talked to who have $100 million businesses. It's all the same of just, I want to create something magical in the world. So that's been a great experience too. So I know that I'm not the only crazy one out there.
I love it. You nailed it on that one. And so now that we've all learned how to use our HELP, live with the questions, and are learning to embrace and support each other, embrace supporting each other, how may we embrace you and support you and your book launch? I'll put the banner back up, but I know let's just put some good vibes out there for Get One, Give One Time, everybody. It's hashtag Get One, Give One Time. You know somebody who could use this book right now. So put it out there. It's really easy to gift books, whether you're going to the independent bookstores or not. Elayne, how can we support you?
Yes, thank you so much. You've been incredible. Just support all the way ever since the first moment we emailed. But you can all go to getoverigot.com. That'll show you, as you mentioned, Ande, independent bookstores where you can buy online. Also, the main major retailers, Amazon and so forth. If you're a man listening to this or someone who doesn't identify with a woman, identify as a woman, I should say, that's okay. Get one, give one. You can get it for a woman in your life. And I always remind men, think of how much happier you will be if the women in your life are happier, right? So make sure they get, whether that's your wife, your mother, your sister, your cousin, whoever, when the women in your life are happy, your daughters, you are happier. And I have a lot of men who've told me, I just bought this for my daughter. I just bought this for my niece. Even my agent was like, sign this for my daughter, So
it's true. And when you get one and give one, you are supporting a woman out there who even if she just reads one chapter in this book, Elayne will have her. Okay. She will have her converting. Oh, this has been so delicious. I'm going to pop you back into the green room, but I want to say thank you so much for joining me on the Startup Life Live show. You're a phenomenal guest, and we all learned so much from you today. Thank you so much, Elayne.
Thank you. See you all later.
Okay. And so, folks, are we ready? We have our HELP acronym. We're ready to glow and start sharing images of hey, I didn't do this by myself. Look, I got support. I just love that idea, something fair. So I want to hear from you what ideas that you have and how much easier it is for you to receive and how you're asking for help, because this is crucial to the success, your personal and your professional success. All right. So next, speaking of deliciousness, on the Startup Life Live show, we have this phenomenal young entrepreneur, and it's Friday, May 28th at 12 p.m. EST. It's Drew Duperval. He's joining us, and he's a serial entrepreneur. Look, I have shoes older than Drew, but he has already done so many amazing things. And he's a startup consultant helping entrepreneurs monetize their passions, start their business, and manifest their 5-year vision. And because when you launch a startup, folks, staying focused on critical path activities can be a challenge. And now we know we need to, look at our priorities list, because that's what Elayne has told us. So Drew's got even more work that he can help you with. But especially when you are transitioning from an employee mindset to an entrepreneur mindset, you need the support. And I just have to tell you, please tune in to meet Drew. His vibe is outstanding. How he's helping people. He is an old soul in a young man's body. And I think he's just absolutely remarkable. I can't wait to have you meet him. And how do you know when I have a new show? Why? You join my meetup group, the Startup Life Live meetup group. Scan this code or go to bit.ly/Startup Life Live. Live is in all caps, and join. And that's where you'll get an alert every time I post a new show. So as we wrap up, and I think I may have to add some more words based on what Elayne has said here today, but I want you to remember something really important, and that is It's really from Winnie the Pooh, okay? And it's really important that you remember that you're braver than you believe. Whatever you're setting out to do, you can do it. And you're stronger than you seem. It's right in there because you're getting support now. And you're smarter than you think. Or as we say here in Boston, wicked smarter than you think, because you're asking for help. And that's a beautiful thing. So thank you so much for tuning in. I'm thrilled. Can't wait to see you next time. Please share this episode. Be supportive, get some support. And I'm thinking of you and I'm cheering you on with all your amazing startup life endeavors. Until we see you next time, I'm wishing you a delicious day.